All right. Today is May 28th, 2021, the Friday that actually is the beginning going into the Memorial Day weekend, right? And I ended up hitting a flea market today, the first one in quite a while, um, basically because they went for it. Okay. Things are getting safer that they feel like. And I went to a place over the years. I have shown hauls from this place, but this is the first of two times that they turn during the year that they turn the entire town into a flea market. Um, and of course, it was calling for rain today. But I did the thing where the insomnia has been hitting for the last couple weeks, and I was wide awake at 3:30 in the morning. Um, Tossed and turned to about 5:30. Got up, drove on down there, and I was there before half the vendors were set up. So I got to drink my coffee, walk around, ran into one or two people I knew, and it was a great little show. I mean, on Memorial Day, it's about half as big as it ends up being on Labor Day later in the year. But I found some really good stuff, a lot of stuff, and for super cheap. And I'm going to be showing the best haul that I got out of there. But I ended up getting all of these for $4. That's important to remember. 30 cents a piece is what it comes to. And there's about 5 or 6 books in there that the total value comes to $196 book value, actual value, not speculator value and stuff, right? So I got down there, and there's a guy that there's usually 3 or 4 people that I buy off every year, and it's blowing my mind because I think we're coming up on probably close to a decade off and on of running into some of these people, and the competition was fierce. I'll tell you what, it's fierce. There was a guy and his dad who I was kind of rooting for because we were there for the same reason, collectors, readers, And then I was at one booth, and a couple of weeks ago, I did the video where I was talking about comic book stores or secondhand shops or whatever, where you'll go through all their boxes and you'll pull out a bunch of books you want. Then they'll stop and they'll try to charge you the eBay prices after you've gone through their boxes for them, pulled out the keys, and they'll keep them and things like that. Well, a crew of them, one of the stores, I was really surprised. I was already going through some boxes. I was already pulling out some gems, and one of the guys around here locally that owns a secondhand shop showed up with his almost like a goon squad. And that's not me name calling. That's kind of how they acted. They just came in like a bull at a China shop. It was weird. It was like seeing a whole bunch of high school football players decided they were just going to bust into a skate rink or something. It was really, really odd. I don't really like obnoxious and loud people. I just really don't like loud people and stuff. And they were just there. And the guy had a crew there that were working for him. He wasn't doing any of the work, which must be nice. But he was very loud, and he really came off like he thought he was better than the people that were there. And I couldn't help but notice this because as I'm pulling out some of these gems, some of these keys and stuff for super cheap, he used to sit there like, you got any of the high end stuff? Like he didn't want to waste his time with him. He's come to a flea market where you've got to dig, and it's not so much work, but that's part of the fun of it. And you can tell he does. The reason he doesn't do the digging is that he doesn't know comics, even though he's trying to fill up his store and he goes by eBay prices. Hey, Muttman is here. Awesome. I'm gonna get to the books here. There we go. Muttman, Hillsville Flea Market is huge. How many comic dealers are set up? In my head, 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 or 5. There'll be more tomorrow. Today's a Friday. It'll be hitting Saturday. But at the BFW part, and then in the field, I can't think of the field's name, the field across from it, there was a few people. Victor Thomas is here. What's up? Okay, so we're going to kind of start out slow. A lot of these books, almost everything I bought was $1. Okay, but when I got, I would round it down, say, hey, you want 5? How about 10 for these? 1, 2, 3, 4. There's about 4 or 5 dealers, I think, off the top of my head, Muttman. All right. But anyway, we'll get to the good stuff as we go through here. It's not so much organized, but I got them out of the bags that they were in. I've already rebagged them. And I got plans tonight and maybe for the weekend. I don't know. So that's why I'm getting this out of the way. Not that anybody asked. Anyway, nothing real huge here, but one of my favorite paintings is Nighthawks. And if you go back and look at some of my older videos, probably around 2016 and stuff like that, I had an intro for my videos where I used the Nighthawk painting. And this is one of two covers for Warrior number 29, where this one is the Nighthawk. Okay. Lobo, Guy Gardner Warrior, Superman. And then I think that's oh man, what was her name? That was a replacement for Wonder Woman in the late 90s. But anyway, just a fantastic cover that I've wanted for a while. And it has eluded me, which really surprised me. I bought this one twice. I double dipped, but it's okay. But I always buy up Valiant Comics from the Jim Shooter area, right? This is Unity. This was free. If you went to the comic book shop and you were buying the way the comic book shop guide that I had at the time when this came out back in like 94, maybe. Oh, I'm sorry. This is $1.50. The first one, the bookend, the first bookend for Unity was free. But anyway, but this was the end of the Unity crossover, which was fantastic that Jim Shooter choreographed and everything. Time is Absolute, Solar Harbinger, Exo-Man of War, Shadow Man, Archer and Armstrong, Magnus Robot Fighter. It was all really, it was just a great time in comics during the 90s there, right? I started picking up some of these. Marvel Comics Presents. This is a Todd McFarlane cover. This is number 32. For you guys that don't know, in the late 80s and running through the early 90s, Marvel actually put out an anthology series called Marvel Comics Presents that came out weekly. And it would have about 4 stories running through it. Right now, as we speak, something's going on with Barry Windsor Smith's storyline that went through Marvel Comics Presents, which was the origin of how Wolverine was in the Weapon X program and how he got his adamantium. I had those for years, but yeah, I probably had about the first 15 regularly. Then I would pick them up here and there. Sold them, I think, to my brother back in the early 2000s, probably late 90s and stuff. But it's a great McFarlane cover. It does wrap around. So yeah, this is what is this? 1990, 89, 1989. So that's when McFarlane was super hot at Marvel, doing his Spider-Man thing. Great. Yeah. So I got a few of these. Now, this, I fell down when I found this in a dollar bin. I mean, you got to go way back, and you've got to be probably a John Byrne fan, post-apocalyptic fan to really appreciate this. But John Byrne started out, his published work started at Charlton Comics in the early 70s. One of the books that he was doing was called Doomsday +1, which was, it was post-apocalyptic, okay? And I think it ran for, we'll say 8 issues maybe at Charlton Comics. Then they kept the original numbering, and with number 9, they just reprinted number 1, and they just kept it going. So if you find these books, you need to get the low numbers to have the first prints. Fantagraphics in the 80s came back, reprinted the books through Fantagraphics, if you will. Like I said, sorry, I'm trying to remember the year while I'm talking. And they did the recoloring. I have those also, and I also have number 1 of this. All right, but I found number 2 for $1. And Charlton Comics, you got to understand that the pressing machine that they used to press their comics was also used to press cereal boxes. Right, this is probably one of the most beautiful books from Charlton that I've ever got, considered its shape. This thing is actually glossy and mint, and just has like a little bump down here on the corner there. I couldn't believe how vibrant this is for a book that came out in around 1975, I believe, right? So there you go. Doomsday +1, number 2. Great early John Byrne stuff, right? I had to grab that. If you've been watching Cavern of Chaos, guys, you know that I sort of discovered Mr. X almost 40 years after everybody else has, that I hang out with, talk comics and everything like that. And I've seen him in dollar bins for years. So I found one from 1985. I don't even know what that, Vortex Comics. So now I'm finding these Mr. X books left and right. In the 80s, you know, it was through Vortex Comics. There's a couple other places, and then in the 2000 teens, Dark Horse started putting out some. So yeah, Mr. X, that was cool to find. I will pick these up all day long when I find them for $1. Preacher number 63. I had number 1 a couple times. When Preacher actually came out in the 90s, when it came to my collecting, it was under Vertigo and things. I really had a problem with the religious aspect of it, considering that Garth Ennis is an atheist, but he had no problem writing stories, playing around with theology, if you will, with his own warped sense. I got over it. I came to terms with it. I've actually met Garth Ennis. There's a video that I pulled off of Twitter and put on here where it shows me about 30 seconds talking to him. But I had a really good talk when I met Garth Ennis a few years ago, probably around 2016, I think, down at a comic book shop called Salesfish. I think it's in Winston-Salem, which was really cool. Now there's a little bit of comic history behind this. I'm always picking up this book whenever I find it. First of all, Freedom Fighters, I'm finding, is a Bronze Age DC book, and it takes place on Earth X. Earth X is one of the multiple pre-crisis worlds where Germany won World War II. Right, so you have the Freedom Fighters of Uncle Sam, Black Condor, the Ray, Phantom Lady, the Human Bomb, Doll Man. They were, I think, they were published through Quality Comics in the 40s. DC acquired them, gave them their own Earth and their own book and stuff. Right, kind of mixed them up here. Right, but what's really great about this book is this is part 1 of 2, and you actually need to get the Invaders at Marvel at the same time by Roy Thomas and I think Frank Robbins maybe at the time or something. But it's a secret crossover. Now, the stories don't go together with the Invaders and the Freedom Fighters, for I remember. But what they did is that they did a secret crossover. Freedom Fighters ended up fighting a thinly veiled version of the Invaders called the Crusaders. And this is an example of what I'm talking about. That's a thinly veiled Captain America that they're fighting. They also had a Namor character and a Human Torch character and a Toro character and a Bucky character. Meanwhile, at Invaders, it's on my top shelf. I'm not going to pull it down, but they had a thinly veiled version of the Freedom Fighters they were talking. Maybe they were the Crusaders. I've been up since 3:30 in the morning, so you guys know whether you're watching it live or you watch in the rewind. I don't mind being corrected. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, there we go. That was for $1. Upgrade. It's just an upgrade, right? Got this for the cover. This is another upgrade. But believe it or not, there was actually an era of Superman in the 80s before John Byrne revamped him, where some of the covers were impossible to find. Now, this is in my small town, off the spinner rack. Years ago, I did a video where I kind of showed where Little Howler, that's the name of the video, where Little Howler Mouse bought his comics. I went around town, and every now and then there would be like, you would see a cover and a preview, or you would see somebody in town with the cover, and it'd be impossible to get. This was actually a hot book in my little town. I don't know what was going on in the world then, but it's a Brian Boland black and white cover of Superman. This is Superman number 422 from 1986. Yeah, this was actually hard to find, to get. I have a beat up stained copy somewhere, so I got an upgrade. I mean, good stuff. Now, I bought this book when it came out, speaking of John Byrne on Superman. And I was already buying the book. I was buying everything John Byrne did there for a while, right? And if it came out, and I already had this one, and it's actually still in pretty good shape. I may have another one that I picked up over the year, but this is the first appearance of Checkmate in Action Comics 598. Now, we know that with the DC movies, they don't exactly nail them. You know what I'm saying? I mean, let's be honest. I enjoy them, but I enjoy many things, and not all of them tasteful. Actually, I enjoy things that are so bad they're good, but I just have this weird feeling about Checkmate. Suicide Squad's coming out. Every now and then, DC will nail a cartoon. To me, the TV stuff DC really beats Marvel at, even though they have the movie. Marvel has the movies, is my opinion and stuff, right? But there's just something about Checkmate. I feel that it will be something will happen with it at some point, even if it's just a cameo in a movie or something, right? Now, I don't usually jump on there to get a first appearance, hoping something comes up, but I really have a little affection. You know what I mean? Like, I'd really like to see Checkmate be good. You know what I mean? Have something happen to where it's good. What do we got here? Didn't we got people out here? All right. Of course, we have Victor Thomas. Muttman is all over it. Dennis Hayes, what's up? And then Muttman's, well, who was the master behind the secret crossover? Well, Roy Thomas had a hand in it for real. But you got to understand back then with the secret crossovers, unless more information comes out, but basically they were kept hush hush. It was amongst friends that did it with a wink and a nod with each other and stuff. I have a video from like, I swear it's probably like about 9 years ago where I talked about secret crossovers in comic books before crossovers were a thing. Murdoch the Pooch is here. What's up? Howdy. What's going on? Now, I picked this up because I was like 12 when I bought this and I loved it. And back when if you really watch if you keep up with the YouTube community here and things online and stuff, and it picked up elsewhere, it kind of gained momentum. But Swamp Thing is one of those books where I really just want to take a stick and make people stay away from it sometimes because they get so many things wrong trying to think they have a key book or push a book or whatever, right? But Justice League Dark came out during the 52. Justice League Dark was Constantine and a bunch of mystical characters coming together to do some adventures. And then Justice League Dark was rumored to be going to be made into a movie by Del Toro. And they had some straight to DVD cartoons and stuff. And they tried to say that a Swamp Thing book, I think around issue 50, I have like 3 or 4 copies of it. It was the first appearance of Justice League Dark, and I'm just like shaking my head. I'm like, no. If you really want to speculate and make up things and really stretch the imagination and logic and stuff, you would go to this Blue Devil Summer Fun special, where you have a bunch of mystical characters coming together for some summer fun, right? I read and reread this book over and over when I was 12, and I can't tell you why. It's just a fun book. Paris Collins, I don't know what it was. It was just so strange. And on top of other things, I'm gonna have to look at my actual copy that I have down here somewhere. I could actually reach over here and probably find it, that I bought when I was 12, but it's also $1.60. That is such an odd price for a comic back in the 80s. Okay, it really was. And that's piqued my interest now that I'm older and seasoned and been doing this for a while, right? Okay, some books that I've got. These are upgrades, but I'm really the John Byrne Alpha Flight. I'm really having a bigger appreciation for them now than when they came out. Considering this was a book that John Byrne did not want to be doing, apparently is what's come out over the years. But this is these are the 2 issues that always seem to disappear from my Alpha Flight run. And Alpha Flight is a very nostalgic book. Came out spin-off of the X-Men, John Byrne doing a Canadian team. It's really of its era, in my opinion. But I really enjoyed the Sasquatch story because what happened is John Byrne, if you follow a writer or a creative team from one book to another book to another book over the years, sometimes they do something really cool. What John Byrne did is that he had the saga of the Super Skrull. Okay. Super Skrull, I think it started out in his Fantastic Four run, and then it was picked up a few years later in his Alpha Flight run. This would be the middle section, and then he finished it off in Namor with what was this little story that he had going on with the Super Skrull. So these are upgrades. The other replacements that I had were the Mark Jewelers specials. So these are in better shape. Newsstand, which seems to be a thing. There you go. A little more John Byrne stuff. Another upgrade, the New Mutants, number 26, Bill Sienkiewicz, with it's number 23. This has Warlock in it. Obviously, you see Cloak and Dagger there, if everything is lit up right, is also in this. But what is really funny is that if you like Inspector Clouseau from those '60s and '70s and early '80s Pink Panther movies. He's drawn in this is a little cameo, and it's hilarious. Sienkiewicz apparently had a sense of humor, if you will. That's one of the and what a funny reason to really like a book like that. Now, there's a little bit of a story behind this warlord held to the chief. You see, it's the cover. It's completely the cover. Warlord was in my house. The uncle and stepdad that I talked about had all the comics in the house, and it's what got me started. And I have pieces of their collection in here and stuff, right? But in fourth, when I was in fourth grade, I guess it was December of '83, before spring break. Christmas break, the stepdad and the mom split up. We ended up moving to another town with my grandmother. I don't even want to call it a town. It was a row of houses, an old coal mining camp, row of houses on top of a mountain and stuff, right? But I had a friend that was older up there named Jason. And when you go to Jason's house, it was amazing because he was just a little bit older than me. Okay. And this guy had G.I. Joe figures. He collected ROM, Team America, G.I. Joe, ROM, Team America, and some X-Men books, right? And he had this warlord laying around. And this always got me because it was always in the same spot in his house. And he was a lot like me and a lot of other kids in the 80s and stuff. His mom was single and worked, so he stayed home by himself quite a bit. That's kind of what we did back then, right? So I honestly got to say that was probably one of the greatest times of my life, and he was such a cool friend. He really blew my mind because he did a thing where he would take his G.I. Joe figures and he would take the screw out of the back of the G.I. Joe figures and he would mix and match and make his own G.I. Joe figures, which blew my mind back then. Because when you're poor, you try to take care of your toys. You know what he's okay. But it just blew my mind because like this book was just always setting out and I never picked it up and read it. So I have it and it's a little reminder of a very good time in my life. It was so cool because I could ride my bike to school and back from school and take my time. It was just fantastic. It was a great time. All right. Nothing real special here. Power Pack, just finishing up the Inferno. There before the pandemic hit and stuff, I've been doing things like over the years to sort of completing all the crossover tales that were going on in the 80s with the books. Inferno, of course, is one of them, getting all the crossovers. I think I've completed a Secret Wars 2 crossover. I may have finally completed my Crisis on Infinite Earths with all the crossovers. So, yeah, I always look for those little corner tags and I check to see if I have them and just taking my time seeing if I have them. Inferno, of course, was Mutant Massacre started a lot of things where they crossed over all the books and apparently they made a bunch of money because it became annually. And it was a big deal when that happened. This was like brand new. Not a lot had happened. Oh, what's going on? Yeah. Warlord is General Patton. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm like, that's why it stuck out. All right, let me go on here. And then Cable. Believe it or not, I am completing a little run on Cable. The James Robinson came on and apparently did issues 44 through 50. Now, again, if you've watched my channel over the years, James Robinson is one of my favorite writers simply because of his Starman book that he did with Tony Harris and other people in the 90s and stuff, right? Fantastic stuff. Well, he came in, started this run 44 to 50 of Cable. So I've been picking it up. But then after that, somewhere along the line in this run before James Robinson left, do not let me go blank on the Ladron. An artist named Ladron started drawing it. And I think he stayed on sporadically, or most of it, up into issue 70. Ladron is a artist that I absolutely love. He draws figures in a very Kirby style, if you will. You know what I'm saying? Reminiscent of Kirby, and his backgrounds look like they are manga, anime, Jeff Darrow influenced, if you will. A very great mix. And I found out, and I'm finding out that this run of Cable. I've had a couple over the years, a few issues here, a few issues there, basically because of the artist, or they brought in Bug from the Micronauts in there during the 30s of this run. I'm finding out that this was actually a really great book. Blows my mind. It's Cable. Cable's nothing to sneeze at, you know what I mean? But yeah, I'm really surprised of the quality of storytelling that went through this. A lot of stuff kind of harkens back to, they pull from quite a bit of Marvel history there, right? Now we got a key, right? Another key here. I always pick this up. I'm talking about this, but this is Shadow Man number 8. And like I said, I've already got almost all of, I need like a Harbinger number 1, things like that. 60. Are you sure? 62 Lefty Buttons. James Robinson wrote issue 48 to 52. I'll have to double check. I'm not really challenging you here, but for some reason I've got issue 44 stuck in my head. I know he did the -1 issue also. So 48 to 52. That's all I need to know. I mean, cool. Thank you. Appreciate it, man. But Shadow Man, this is the first appearance of Master Dark. A couple years ago, Charlton66, check out his channel, Charlton66. We were at Baltimore Con and we actually got to talk to Bob Hall. I have a picture of him, probably somewhere on the Instagram or my Facebook or something. We were talking to him and he gave us behind the scenes talks of Shadow Man at Valiant Comics at the time. This was considered Valiant's failure. And so Bob Hall came on, did some great stuff, and it introduced Master Dark, and this is his first appearance. Master Dark was actually like Wizard's top 10 villains of the part of that list, top 10 villains of the month or something. Ladron did art and few of those. 62 Lefty Blues knows his Ladron. That's awesome, man. I love people that know great artists and stuff. Get those references. So this is the first appearance of Master Dark. And as you can see, that is Shadow Man's symbol there. All right. I should have worn my shirt. I have that shirt. There's Shadow Man. And I like how they introduced Master Dark to sort of echo his insignia, if you will, which I thought was fantastic, right? A little more John Byrne love. Like I said, I was just sort of picking up Marvel Comics Presents, some of the covers that were grabbing me. And here's a great wraparound cover by John Byrne on Wolverine. This is number 47. Plus three other features on there. And I love when they play around with the Marvel corner boxes, if you remember those. Here we have, Captain America reacting to Wolverine slashing that cover, playing around there. Just fantastic. Just such fun, man. And if I ever had to pick like the ultimate Wolverine artist, I know we can bring up Mark Silvestri, Dave Cockrum, maybe even Art Adams if I threw him out there, and we could probably go on and on. But I think John Byrne is the #1 guy to draw Wolverine all the way around. Okay, this blew my mind for a buck, but I don't know if you guys remember loot crates. I don't know if they still do loot crates, but I remember when I would get on YouTube, and if I didn't go to my feed first, my subscription feed first, I would have all these people doing these loot crate videos, But every now and then there'd be comics, and there would be an odd comic that was like the #1 selling book ever, or for at least for the month or something. It would have like 6 figures, like 250,000 sold or something, right? Well, it's because they were in loot crates, that's what made the book go up and everything. And this is one of them. 2 of my favorite movies, right up there with like Blade Runner and Goonies. I mean, we can talk 80s movies all day long, but they finally did it, man. They did the Big Trouble in Little China meets Escape from New York. Kurt Russell meets Kurt Russell. Yep. It's all in the reflexes, But yeah. So I got the #1 of that, still sealed, and it does say Loot Crate exclusive. So that will be getting opened. Don't worry. No worries, right? A little Jim Mint, if you will. Number 333 of the Incredible Hulk, where Peter David had arrived, and we were having Todd McFarlane arrive. We had Todd McFarlane coming over from DC, doing things like Infinity Incorporated, Infinity Inc. And then all of a sudden it's like he gets to Marvel, and the guy just freaking blossomed into a superstar. This is he was probably doing this and Spider-Man at the same time. I'll have to I remember they were all over the rack and people were buying these up all over the place from 1987. Now I've had these books off and on over the years. Actually bought a few off the rack when they came out. And then in 2010, when I was moving out of Roanoke, Virginia, I was loading my stuff with myself. moving everything out of my apartment onto a U-Haul and got to my comics. And I had 2 long boxes of comics stolen off of the U-Haul. And it was my Incredible Hulk run. We're talking Silver Age on up and the Peter David run and stuff like that. So I ended up piecing that back together off and on and stuff, right? So it's great to have this, but it's great to have this in such fine shape. This thing is glossy. The thing is still glossy. Oh, 34 years old and still glossy. All right. Oh, these are out of order, but I'm always picking up Marvel Saga. I've talked about how I had the first 12 issues of Marvel Saga, and in 7th grade, I got in trouble for talking in math class, but I was set up. I was set up like a bowling pin and knocked down. And part of the punishment we were told if anybody ever talked, got caught talking, is that they had to do, oh my God, you had to do it was like, I don't know, like a 14-page paper or something, right? On whatever you wanted. So I did mine on Marvel Saga. I was telling the story of the Silver Age of, of the Marvel Universe. And I got in trouble again and I didn't do anything. Years later, I meet the math teacher in a bar when I'm about 22. I was in 7th grade at that time. And then I was 22 and ran into her in a bar. And she admitted to me that she was so fascinated with what I was writing, pulling from the Marvel Saga, that she went ahead and got me more trouble so I would finish the paper, finish the series. Yeah, so I'm picking those up out of nostalgia. I've got those original books that I had in 7th grade that I was picking up off the rack. And now I'm figuring I'll piece them together. There's only 25 of them. They were fantastic. Always picking these up because it blows my mind why these are keys. But we have a wizard from the Hyborian age of Conan in issues 190 and 191 that turns Manhattan Island and all the people on it and all the heroes into it into like Conan land. They all become, it's like the Hyborian age on Manhattan in 1984. What is wild about these 2 issues is that, number 190 there with the weird Caliban Professor Xavier merger. Cullen Roth, that was his name. Anyways, it had Spider-Man and the Avengers in it, and really, it was actually really no big deal. But what was wild about this is, like I said, this 190 was the Peter Frampton of X-Men books for a while. It felt like everybody had it, and it was everywhere. And it really blows my mind that it only came out in 1984. I feel like this book has been around forever. I feel like this should have been a book from like 1980. But the reason it was all over the place is that if you had a 5 and dime mom and pop shop somewhere that just sold whatever, you walk in and find toys and clothes and just whatever and stuff. This came in a 3-pack. They actually used to have comics that were 3 for $1 in a 3-packet, and they were sealed. This was in a 3-pack. You could just pick this up with the rest of them for $1 for years. As long as the mom and pop shop was around and stuff, right? People tend to not remember that, but maybe it's where I was in a small town. But yeah, that book sort of took off for whatever reason. I'm not going to waste anybody's time. Some more Marvel Saga. I ended up double dipping. There was 2 in a bag. I didn't mean to do that. 2 in a bag. Bringing up the Stranger. Yeah, Marvel Saga. 25 of them. I'm probably, at least probably real close to having completed. And then again, if you've watched me for a while, you know that I'm always sort of completing the Baxter series that came out in the 80s of any and all DC comics that came out in the 80s of the Baxter series, right? Baxter series were for direct market sales, for comic book shops, higher quality paper. Again, this is towards the end of Todd McFarlane's run before he jumped over there to Marvel. This is after the Crisis on Infinite Earths had come in, and it had destroyed everything that Roy Thomas had been building up to since 80 or 81 with All-Star Squadron, Infinity Inc. And now the Earth 2 heroes are all on the same Earth. There was never an Earth 2, and there's only one Superman, only one Batman, things like that. So he had to spend a lot of time addressing what that Earth was like, because Fury, who is Wonder Woman and Steve Trevor's daughter from World War II, those characters, they don't exist anymore. They don't exist. Wonder Woman ended up arriving in modern times in the 80s now. So I'm real interested to see how Roy Thomas came upon this. I'm really close to having a full run of Infinity Inc. You know, and now I will pick this book up all day long, every day. And I look back at this, and this is just a fantastic story. I've talked people into reading this story who were like Marvel zombies, um, and wanted recommendations, and they always tell me, "Don't I've been told twice you're hyping the book up, and then they'll read it, and they're like, "Man, that was really good. It was fantastic, right?" But before John Byrne, we're talking about Christ and Him at Earth. Um, what they did is John Byrne was going to come up and revamp Superman. 50th anniversary was coming up. Crisis on Infinite Earths had just happened. We're going to make these young and fresh for a new audience and stuff, and get a new beginning. And what they did is they took the Silver Age Superman and they did what if it's going to be his last story. So they were like, what would be the last Superman story? Alan Moore pretty much was like, I have to be the man to do this. I've heard tell that he reached over across, I don't know, it was Paul Cooperberg or Mike Harlan or whoever the editor was, and supposedly threatened them, but he was very demanding on doing the last Superman story. The year before this, he had done the Fantastic Superman annual number 11 that I just happen to have right here. This is my reader copy that I keep out for The Man Who Has Everything. I have some mint copies that I keep in the boxes. I found this one real super cheap, just so I have it on hand to read. So he came out, and in Action Comics and then Superman Comics, he did Whatever Happened to the Man of Tomorrow, which is the last Silver Age Superman story, and it's fantastic. This is part one. Superman 423. I don't remember the Action Comic number off the top of my head, but I always pick these up when I find them. I actually fell in love with this story. There's also a DC Comics Presents like number 85, 86, 87, somewhere around there, where Alan Moore was hot and heavy with his Swamp Thing run, and he did a Superman and Swamp Thing story in that one, which was fantastic. What we got here? All right, we're backing up to talking about great Hulk art. Okay, we're talking about great artists. McFarlane was in the top 3 Hulk artists of all time. 62 Lefty Blues comes in. I'm partial to Herb Trimpe and John Severin doing the inks. That's Herb Trimpe is the Hulk artist for a lot of people. Believe it or not, mine is Ernie Chan or Sal Buscema. And you got to understand, I love the Herb Trimpe Hulk. You will not get an argument with me there. And I'm gonna go ahead and tell you, a lot of people. What was his name? Jeff Purves, I think that was his name. He did the Hulk and after McFarlane and after Larson, the Joe Fixit years. I had to warm up to his style, but I really cannot think of anybody who has come on the Hulk that absolutely did a horrible job with him. Hulk may be one of those characters that is a bit charmed when it comes to artists. You know what I mean? All right. Movie World Comics is here. What's going on? Just tuning in. Howdy do. Great, man. I'm actually halfway through the stack. A lot of you guys are popping in to where I'm saving the good stuff with the story to last, hoping that people will jump on here. Anyway, some more key books that I had. Now, when I was 10 years old, I've heard people, going way back and stuff, man. There's people who fell in love with The Authority. There's people who fell in love with Planetary. There were people who fell in love with Chris Claremont and John Byrne's X-Men. There were people who fell in love with Marv Wolfman and George Perez on Teen Titans. And when I was 10, with that timing that was going on, when I was buying comics with my own money, that I would save up, this is the book that I fell in love with, and it was the timing. If I had been 3 years younger, I probably would have been right there with the Teen Titans at least, and probably the X-Men. It's all about the timing, you know what I mean? But I fell in love with this issue. I still have my All-Star Squadron books. I still have this first appearance and stuff. But this is number 25, and I'm pretty sure this is from 1983. But this was the first appearance of Infinity Incorporated, Infinity Inc. in the pages of All-Star Squadron. So I snagged them both up. This probably makes like 5 issues and stuff, man. But this is one of those personal, special issues that I just felt the magic as a kid when I read it. I thought it was so cool. I thought they looked so cool. 10 years old, man. You know, I was 10. Don't get me wrong. Jerry Ordway was fantastic. The JSA is in here. Just a lot of good stuff. A lot of good stuff, man. So, yeah. The Fury, Nucleon, Northwind, Brave and Wave Jr., Jade, Obsidian, Silver Scarab. Now, I don't watch a lot of the CW shows because, just to be honest, I find some of them painful. They're not made for me. But I do respect how they'll take an effort. Now, the shows that were on the DC app for a while, the DC Universe app for a while, Doom Patrol was fantastic. Stargirl is fantastic. So I hate to rein it in, you know, to blame pointing a finger at the CW shows, but I'm pretty sure they had a Legends of Tomorrow I tried to check out where they had the Infinity Inc. characters on it. And I got to tell you, man, it was painful. You know, I couldn't hang in there. Now, if we back up a few years before there, that Smallville did a fantastic, I think it was 2010. What was that? Season 9, 10? I don't know. I'll have to look it up. But they had a 2-part JSA story on Smallville, which I thought was incredible. Of course, Jeff Johns had worked on that. I saw the episode where they had 3 members of the Legion of Superheroes pop up, which I thought was great. So I don't want to bash all CW is what I'm trying to say. Okay. Now, speaking of All-Star Squadron and Todd McFarlane and all that stuff, right? I still have my original I bought off the rack. I've been collecting All-Star Squadron for years at this point. But here's another one from 85 when I was 12. But this is a one-shot. Well, not a one-shot. I mean, back up there, right? I've been up since 3:30, guys, in the morning. Right, but this is an issue that actually kind of took off for a little bit around the time that Todd McFarlane was becoming a big superstar. People were, you know, going back, but he came in and, of course, he was with Roy Thomas on Infinity Inc. Well, they come in and they're doing a retelling of the origin of Dr. Fate. This is All-Star Squadron number 47, and lo and behold, Todd McFarlane does the art for it, and he does some really good stuff. To me, this is the book where I started seeing some of those Spawn poses, if you will, some things where McFarlane's style was really starting to come out. You know, now if you're a fan of McFarlane, you know, some of this earlier stuff and seeing where he ended up, it's all right in there. And I'm not going to lie, I did not know what was going on right there in that section of the cover. That really bothered me at 12. And I went, oh, and after I read the story, I'm like, oh, okay. It's not what I thought it was, you know. Okay. Here we go. What's going on here? Ed McGuinness is a great Hulk artist. Ed McGuinness was meant to draw the Hulk or He-Man. You know what I mean? His style actually looked like to me, it's like he takes old He-Man figures and that's what he uses to model. The only CWDC show that I've seen is Superman and Lois, and that, in my opinion, is great. I'm halfway through the first episode, but they're going to pull them off HBO Max. So hopefully they're on the CW app that I have on the Roku streaming service. I enjoy the McFarlane Invasion miniseries artwork from DC. That was fun. Yeah, the guy on the far right of the cover looks like the King. Oh, Ming the Merciless. Yeah. His name is he's named after a Wagner character, Wotan. Yeah, I think it's Wotan. Yeah, I got you. Okay, guys, just a few more issues and we'll get to the good stuff here. So stick around here, man. So I picked this up, and I actually think I want to try to find the issues around this story. By this time, I think Marvel Comics Presents started having flip covers instead of wraparound covers. So that's the trick with Marvel Comics Presents once you get past, I don't know, issue 100 maybe. It's been a long time, right? But they turn into flip covers. Okay. So Sam Keith was doing covers for quite a while there. He came on, did a Wolverine story in the 90s of Marvel Comics Presents, stuck around, started doing covers. So you have the Wolverine versus Venom story. This is the early days of Venom, okay, with Sam Keith covers there. I'm a huge Sam Keith fan. He pulls from Von Bode. He pulls from Arthur Pseudonym, and then he turned around and does his own thing in there. So it's fantastic. This is from 92. So Venom had been around about 4 years, I think, if I had to guess. But yeah, Wolverine Venom. I think this was probably like a 4 or 5 part story. I haven't really done my research on it. But when I saw this, I was like, hey, man, I remember that. That was actually kind of fun now that I'm more forgiving over the years. So there you go. What we got here? Hey, John C has popped in. Sam Keith draws body hair like nobody's business. Him and Neil Adams need to have a competition when it comes to body hair. Let's see it. I want to let's see it go down. You know any title that is similar in tone to Garth Ennis's Hitman? Hitman is so Garth Ennis and stuff. And some of his early Punisher has a little bit of that humor that's in there, that dark humor that's in there. I mean, he had the Punisher kill people with polar bears and stuff, right? You know, he had the what was it, the 6-pack miniseries that spun out of Hitman. I don't know. I may have something pop in my head at some point in time. I'm sure there's an image book out there of 2 cops or something that has the same tone. Oh man, I didn't realize Hillsville is having a huge flea market. Yeah, good to see. Oh, thanks, John. Well, who we got here? The Pro, Prime One Collector saying The Pro by Enos and Palamati. There you go, man. That's why we like it. All right, so somebody mentioned, you know, the Baxter series. I think I need 1 issue now, if I'm right. Maybe a few upgrades, but I have almost completed the. Is this focusing? I'm getting washed out here. But yeah, I've almost completed this Legion of Superheroes run, the Baxter series, which I absolutely love. It's got some great moments in it. Had some great artists, Greg LaRocque, Steve Lytle, Giffen himself. Really some great stuff. I got to admit, the 80s Legion, hate to go back to the 80s again. That 80s Legion stuff was just gold for what was coming out back then. You know, got that out of the way. And for if there's anybody that is into Legion of Superheroes, you know that when the Baxter series ended, they did a time jump 5 years later, and it was very dark. You know what I mean? It was very dark. Earth had been conquered, decimated, invaded. The Legion had broke up, and everything had happened. And now everybody was older, and they were coming together. Well, if you're a fan of that Legion 5 years later Legion stuff, which I dig, I liked it. You've got to get this Adventures of Superman number 478 time and time again from 1991, because this actually takes place in between some of the issues of that Legion run, where it shows how the moon was blown up and Superman was there. There was this little story arc where they were having Superman travel through time. You know, I'm not going to get into it because it's been a while since I've read it, but yeah, Superman was journeying through time, if you will. You know, you got to do that with Superman sometimes. Okay, guys, now I'm probably going to make a separate video all on of its own eventually on this. I've actually got 2-3 ideas for videos that I'm just going to have to sit down and do. So anybody that's stuck around, I appreciate you. But this stack here was originally going to be 50 cents a piece, and it was going to be $7. So when I was whipping out the money, counting my ones, the guy looked at me and he was like, "How much you got there?" And I said, $4. He said, "Sold." Now I've bought off this guy for over the years. The man that I bought this off of is 65 this year. He's a preacher on the side, and he just buys comics and sells comics. He admits he's really not into them, and he prices them, and he has some high quality stuff. And what he did is he bought a collection, is what I found out. It's like he put out a treasure for somebody that wants to take the time. It's like he was trying to pay it forward in a way, maybe. But he said that collection that these books came out of has already paid for itself and over. It did excellent. So he put them in a 50-cent box. 12 people. He was counting. He was waiting to see who the person was that was going to take their time and go through the 50-cent box when you're surrounded by all this high-end books. I mean, he had a box of Amazing Spider-Man, and the cheapest book in there was $45. It made me feel really good about some of my Spider-Man books, right? So that's just an example of what was in there. So I go through the 50-cent box. I've never seen him have a dollar box or a 50-cent box. And I found these books, and he told me 12 people had gone through them and looked right over them. I blame this on people who watch speculators online. They got people looking for the same 20 books at a time or something, and there are many other books that are actually keys that are out there, right? So here they are, right? Anyway, so this is number 20. Now, these Swamp Thing books, I looked them up on, I looked at them. Okay, I checked them out. These are mint. They're mint. They're actually upgrades from the one I have now, and they were 30 cents a piece, is what the math came up to. But I looked them up on comicbookrealm.com, an actual comic book price guide site, right? That's free to use. These in the shape that they are actually in my opinion and stuff, these are $196 worth of books just on the Swamp Thing, on the value, right? So here's number 19, the first Alan Moore issue. For years, everybody would talk about the anatomy lesson, number 21, and they thought that was Alan Moore's first issue forever. So then a couple years ago, from the circles I'm in, people woke up to it, and this jumped up to about a $45 book. He was he was tying up all the loose ends from, I think it was Martin Pascal, who was writing the book before. And I love how Alan Moore writes, because for him to start what he wanted to do on the book, he killed the Swamp Thing. He destroyed the Swamp Thing and grew him back, if you will, so he could take off and do what he did. So I now have another copy of the anatomy lessons. And for people that it matters, these are all newsstand issues. Okay. Put those to the side. Number 22, number 24 with the Floronic Man and the Justice League. And this issue here has one of my favorite lines by Superman. Okay, this is pre-crisis Superman. This is when he's super powerful and stuff. But the Floronic Man is doing his thing where he's filling the earth up. He's making all the plants. He's connected to the green. He's having all the plants super oxygenate the earth, where if you light a match, eventually it's all going to burn. And Superman is sitting there talking to the League on their satellite, and they're talking about, how many oxygen atoms are really out there in the atmosphere. Superman's, you want me to count real quick? I love that. I was like, yes. And then, guys, this years ago, I did a video, and I cursed in it. It might be a curse in the title, I don't know. But I was really sick of this because there's a lot of misinformation going on. I mentioned earlier about Swamp Thing misinformation. Well, this is the book that really kills me, right? Okay, but I got 2 issues of the Swamp Thing, number 25, mint condition, 30 cents a piece, newsstand editions, right? And I want to make clear that the reason this book is considered a key is not right. It's not the first appearance of John Constantine. In one panel, we have Sting pop up, like, little, it's like a wink and a nod, because the artists on the book were fans of Sting, and they actually were talking to Alan, and however they were talking to Alan Morse, and they wanted a character to look like Sting. That's where John Constantine, how he came to be a year later in issue 37. So people ran with that and said that's the first real appearance of John Constantine. Then they've said there was a preview issue where his face is on a 2-page spread of an advertisement for the Swamp Thing and stuff, right? So this book is taken off, and I was so tired of seeing people feeling like they were burned when they were watching things on YouTube and things, and they would come right on a live show or a stream or something we were doing, chatting and everything. They would pop right up and be like, I finally got that number 25, and they would tell me how much money they spent. So yeah, I have 2 of them. I have 3, 4, probably have 4 of these now, because they were there. And that's the big ones, right? There's an Alan Moore backup story in this Omega Men, number 27. Some of the Omega Men, some of the Green Lantern books in the 80s, Alan Moore was doing backups, little, 4 or 5 page stories in these. They're worth tracking down because they're fun and funny. If you liked what he did on his 2000 AD stuff, and things that has that feel to it. And then I've been finding Alien books from Dark Horse and Predator books left and right. But this is by Kelly Jones, Aliens Hives. So it's a 4-issue miniseries. I probably just need 1 or 2 more issue, but the freaking artwork is phenomenal in this. Alien Hives is the one I'm saying, if you wanted one for the art, track this one down. There's a few more here. Picked up another Unity. Number 1, the last piece of that. I talked about that earlier. Here's an upgrade for me: $1 adventure comics from back in the day with some JSA adventures. And then this was a key there for a while. I think we're going to have to go back to the CW shows, but apparently this is the first issue of Byte. Bit and Byte were characters when home computers were really taking off in America in 1984. You could get your Texas computer or your Coco computer, your color computer is what that was, for $3,000, like, so, but I had number 24 because number 24 had the first appearance of Blue Devil. I got that book given to me when I was in the hospital with getting my appendix out, but this was the issue before it. And I think Byte or something showed up on a CW show, which would have to be Legends of Tomorrow, I guess. And that book, this is like a $20 book now or something, right? And then this is a Mark Jewelers beat up 1975. I love it. Number 159 of Fantastic Four that I think I got for 50 cents. I don't know what's doing in this stack, but it's a Mark Jewelers in it. And if you're into the Marvel value stamps, this has Doctor Doom in it. This is the Doctor Doom value stamp. I might cut it out. I don't know. And then I picked up a Wizard magazine, number 24, that I have no idea if I have or not, but it was 30 cents also. Okay, so a few other little things I have to show. Now, when you go to a flea market, this is the last of it, guys. So when we go to a flea market, and I don't know, maybe it's a regional thing, but I'm betting it's not because I've been to flea markets in several states over the years. And you usually have somebody that's going to try to give you a pity story. Some people end up becoming professional flea market people, and they start looking at customers and stuff like carny folk do, your outsiders and stuff or whatever, but they try to find a mark sometimes or something, or you can't talk to them, or they're just trying to sell. And I'm not saying their intentions are evil, you know what I mean? Their job is to get the money out of your pocket. Okay, it's a game. But anyway, I bought this off of this guy because I feel like he was flat out honest with me. I was floating around and I had to time the flea market. I looked up the weather last night, and it's supposed to be a thunderstorm around noon, right? So I was trying to get through there and get out of there by noon because I showed up at 7. I was there by 7 this morning, right? But this guy looked at me and he had some cool stuff. It was all right, and he just flat out looked at me and he was like, "Well, I have a wedding and a honeymoon to pay for, so everything's priced to go." And I believed him. He didn't over explain. He wasn't really trying to push anything hard. So either the guy was telling the truth, which I think he was, or he's a hell of a liar, which is seriously dangerous. But I went ahead and got this off of him. Now I'm going to eventually have to do a video if anybody was ever interested of all my Watchmen stuff, right? I have a ton of Watchmen stuff here. I read the Watchmen for the first time in 1988, because it wasn't on the newsstand. And I've studied that book very much so, right? But I have a Blu-ray of the Watchmen movie. I have the DVD Ultimate Cut, but I have the director's cut that's used. I found it used. It seems, I don't know if these are out of print or what's going on, but I never thought I would actually buy this. But I got this for $15. Okay, it's the collector's edition of the Watchmen movie. Hopefully, you can see that. All right, you open it up, and it comes with a hardback of the Watchmen, issues 1 through 12. You got the black freighter there when you open it up, and this is the promotional. The cover of this came from DC Spotlight. I think it's was it Spotlight? Did I already put it up? Anyway, a lot of people consider a preview issue, a free preview issue you could get at a comic book shop in '85. I think when it came out, but on the last page, this was the piece that they used to advertise the Watchmen was coming. Okay, it's very rough, very loose, considering how crisp the artwork ended up being. Right, so I have now a hardback that came with it, but it comes with the Blu-ray collected edition's Ultimate Cut of the Watchmen. The Ultimate Cut is the only way you should be watching this movie. Okay. Blu-ray special features. This is basically exactly like the DVD Ultimate Cut that I have. Widescreen version of the movie, and it comes with the complete comic, which I have. And is that right? Is that all on one DVD? Watchmen, the Ultimate Cut Blu-ray. Watchmen the special features, Watchmen widescreen. So I guess the theatrical cut is in here. I'm gonna have to read up on this. And it comes with one disc of the motion comic. Maybe they got them all on one disc by this time. So anyway, yeah, there you go. I ended up buying that. I'm not going to say I didn't want it, but it was definitely a hell of a deal. You follow me? It was definitely a hell of a deal. So we'll just put that there. And then on the way home, wouldn't you know it, I just had to stop at one antique shop because I was in that town. Okay, and I'm glad I did. I spent a little bit of money. I had such good deals at the flea market. I still had budget. The money I budgeted for it had quite a bit left. So if you believe that Swamp Thing 25 is the first appearance of John Constantine because it has Sting in it, then you're going to really, shit the bed over these, right? But they don't have the records, but I'll eventually find the records. But if you like 1984 Dune, and a lot of people do, even though they don't admit it, the movie that David Lynch was doing of Dune and the movie studio completely messed it up. These are the two record books, like power records. You could come in there and listen to the records while you read the book. They don't have the records. That's all right, man. But you know what? They have Sting in them. One of them has Sting in it. And I'm like, uh-oh, it's the first appearance of John Constantine. Here it is. Anyway, he's in one of these somewhere. And it makes me laugh. I'm like, oh, I have the first appearance of John Constantine now, which cracks me up. Anyway, he's in one of them. But the last thing I want to show for everybody that's popping in there, man, is I cannot believe this, right? 1974, Curse of the Werewolf, Power Records, book and record set, right? And I did pay $15 for this. I'm fine with that. I don't usually buy anything that's expensive to me, considering this is a hobby and stuff, right? But I could not pass it up because the record is perfect. Now, you have to understand, in 1974, if you got a power record set, and I think a studio by Neil Adams was hired to draw these, all right? I mean, they are from Marvel and DC. They had Spider-Man and the Hulk and Captain America. There's a whole list of what they had. Wolfman, Man-Thing, Escape from the Planet of the Apes. I have a few other ones, that I've gotten here. And Mike Klugark would be on some of these. Gene Colan, they would pull from the actual comics every now and then. But you got to understand, these really were for kids, and kids were not nice and did not take care of things like a lot of collectors do today. So the fact that the record was in there in perfect shape, I'm like, can't pass that up. I'm going to drive 20 minutes down the road and want to turn around to go get it because it's there. So they got me on that one. So there you go. Guys, that's everything. Thanks for everybody sticking with me on this one. It is a rainy Friday now out there. I beat the rain home, and I had a pretty good day, got to admit. So everybody enjoy their Memorial Day weekend. I'm going to go ahead and plug it if you made it this far. I'm not going to be doing the Cavern of Chaos show tonight on this channel. Jared's going to be doing it on his channel, Jared Osborne. If you watch the Cavern of Chaos show that we do on this channel on Friday nights, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So make sure you subscribe to Jared and watch the show on his channel. If I can pop in, I will, but we've got some things going on this weekend, and we're just waiting for the wifey to get home to see if we're going to get started or not. All right, guys, later. Be excellent to each other and enjoy your Memorial Day weekend.